So I'm really chuffed, as in I've lost count of how many people have actually joined, but thanks for joining. It's absolutely a wonderful day for me, certainly with that kind of support. And really what I wanted to do today was give you a bit of an overview of Third Space. Some of you have been participating quite actively. Some of you said you are kind of watching and trying to make sense of it. Some of you said don't quite understand what this is all about. And so hopefully today's session will give you some understanding of what Third Space is. In a nutshell, it is a space for passion. That's what it's being built for, and will all come to life. We all have the two spaces. We have home and we have work. But third space is where we are ourselves, and that's what it is designed to be. It's a home away from home and work away from work. But go further, there's always a backstory to everything, right? There's always a backstory, and there is a very big backstory here, and that's really my own struggles with getting small outside of the norm, and it's this passion that for some reason I feel very strongly about, which is to enable awesome individuals to achieve awesome outcomes for themselves and the world. So that's what keeps driving me to do this. But every time a change maker tries to make any journey, it's always full of struggles. And that's what I experienced. And I think that's the shared story with all of the change makers. And that's what unites us. And just to bring what change makers is to life, a change maker is an ordinary person, really, who observes something that's not working and says that needs change, but also takes concrete action. And I'm not talking about very woody uh, concepts here. I'm talking about things that we all do in order to make our world work better. Whether it's an entrepreneurial journey, whether you start an NGO, anything you want to do is a change, which changes from the current norms. And it's really difficult when you are just starting off. I can tell you, I've been trying to do this for 6 years. Some of you have been part of this journey all through the 6 years, and it's those collaborations and those connections is what has kept me going, and that's what I'm really trying to solve here by creating Third Space. So and what I've also found is it's always quality over quantity. When we started Small Outside 6 years back, just like everyone else, we thought, yeah, we need thousands of people to come along, and then we can do something meaningful. But turns out that's not the case. You just need a few handful of good quality people to come together to make any good things happen. And that's what the focus of Third Space is and will be. And the idea here is to bring everyone connections which are meaningful, not connections from work or friends we already know, but a connection of loose ties. Loose ties is where the magic actually happens when we are connecting with people who don't really know us but share our passion, and that's really where Third Space is trying to be. But in terms of connecting, building such communities, what is essential is a culture. There has to be something shared so that people can engage meaningfully and make great connections. And that's what Third Space is really trying to bring together. At the moment, we are starting with 150 members. I think on last count, there were 110 of us. But the goal is to stop at 150, make sure the engagements are good quality. If everyone knows everyone by first name, that's a massive tick. And if people feel comfortable to just literally network with people who they've never met, but they know that there's a culture of shameless networking, there's no pretense here, they just pick up the phone or send a message on LinkedIn, say, look, hey, I'm stuck. Looks like you've got some experience. Can you help? And the other person comes forward. It's a give and take culture, which I want to try and inculcate, and that's when the community really comes to life. So that's what we're doing right now with 150, but it will be mixed passion because it's too small a number if we start breaking it down by, oh, these people are passionate about mental health. These people are passionate about whatever the next AI thing is bringing, whatever be those passion areas. If we try and split it at this stage, it will be very small groups, which is why this is a mixed passion group right now. But going forward, if we see traction, and there are some good early signs, then the goal is to enable every member with 150 connections on a subject they're most passionate about. And that's where the real magic happens, because you have a shared language and you can work together to achieve whatever your own dreams are. So that's where we're going. But of course, we are still on the 8-week pilot. We are on week 4, so it's really the midpoint. And we've covered different discussions so far. We've covered mental health at work, technology for the young, finding your purpose, and the recent one is how to become a change maker. And those discussions have shown good promise, but again, there is some fatigue setting in, or at least that's what I'm reading between the lines. It may not be true, but there may be a need to adapt. And I think that's very important in building a community, keeping an open mind, not going with a script, and seeing how we can make it work for everyone. That's got to be the goal. Uh, the method can be anything. There is a lot of interest in networking, so maybe having networking sessions on Fridays where breakout rooms, that could be something that would come up. But the point is, irrespective of the method, the goal still remains the same, which is connecting individuals with like-minded people so that they can make something happen. Now, what I also found in running the 4 weeks is there is a lot of effort. There's a lot of effort to facilitate, to manage the membership, to compile the discussions that have happened, and it takes time. Now, the risk is if we don't do it in a sustainable way, in a financially sustainable way, it will run out of steam. And if it's helping people, it's going to come to a standstill. So that's where we started talking about Third Space Premium. Third Space will always remain free. It's something which stays on mission. The Third Space Premium will build some additional services, and there are a few around things like masterminds, which we've run before, and those were quite popular. But something like that could be a more facilitated thing, maybe coaching. We don't know the exact definition. We are pulling those bits together. Saras and me, we've been doing some work together on what that could look like. And we want to take the co-created venture approach. It's what small outside venture which is co-created. And as a co-created venture, Third Space will not just create that extra value, but it will generate funds so the Third Space free version can continue to exist. And that's really the goal, not to make profits, but to make sure it sustains itself. We already have interest and from Sureka, Sahas, Tudor, Rama, Brian, Manan, and myself. All of us will be working on Third Space Premium to see how we can make it work. Does it even have legs? Is it even possible to creates value, but also generates the required funds, keep going? And it's not just group of co-founders who will work on an equity sharing basis, but it will also be partners, trusted partners. So CFO Hub, I think I saw Gavin soon come in. So he's going to represent CFO Hub to give us that financial angle so that we understand how we are doing things. I had a great chat with Majoto, Dennis from Majoto. I don't know if he joined, but he is a very well-aligned founder himself, trying to do something in the legal space. So he will be bringing certain expertise. We've only spoken today, the conversations will continue. But during the 8-week period that follows from now on, so hopefully next week, next Thursday, we'll kick it off with a smaller group of people who are willing to put in time. And during the 8 weeks, what we'll be really looking to do is iterate on a weekly basis and maybe speak to yourselves and understand what is working, what's not working, what would be valuable. so that we can build an offering that creates value for you by being a member of Third. But that's what we are looking to start. The goal of the 8-week period is really at the end of 8 weeks to come up with something that is valuable and is investment ready. These things will require money. We will, of course, use a bootstrapping approach so that anything that is generated can be pumped back into keeping this operation running. But it may require venture funding as well. So we'll explore that. But the goal of 8 weeks is to get to that point where we feel confident that it's okay to invest time on this, but also somebody is willing to invest money into it. So that's where we want to be. Right? And really, I do want to give a shout out. I'm not saying it for the sake of it. This whole conversation started as in Third Space is just a new name for what we've been trying to do for the last 6 years. At one point, it was called the Circles app. That's slowly changed to Third Space. But when we moved to LinkedIn, when things weren't working in Discord and we moved to LinkedIn, it suddenly seemed to capture some great energy. And I had a group of facilitators who helped think it through, support me in the background, and their input has been extremely valuable. Not to mention the members who have actually actively engaged and participated in this conversation. So without that, that wouldn't have happened. So thank you so much for that. But are there any questions around the concepts? I know I've rattled through it just in interest of time, but are there any questions you have about Third Space, where it's going, or things you observed in Third Space so far? Yeah, go on, Matt.
Oh, yeah. So what's the process then from a conceptual point of view? If is the idea that we come together with a series of, or brainstorm a series of ideas, which are then triaged, and then a various a group of individuals who takes interest in that idea starts working on them together. What's your, how do you envisage that pipeline is fed, I guess? So
do you mean the conversations that happen within Third Space, or the ideas that get generated from Third Space and taken into execution?
I guess the ideas themselves.
Right. So that's the other bit which I'll not cover today because the focus is Third Space. But with Small Outside, we're just trying to do two things. One is Third Space, where we connect members and generate. But the second part is the Impact Studio, where the venture studio, where those ideas are then given birth to a process. So let me take a real example. The conversations led to some ideas coming up. One of them was pretty easy to implement. It's called 3 buttons. It came from Peter, something he was doing at his workplace to kind of gauge the mood of his team in order to capture the mental health kind of angle to his team on this. And it was a very simple, are you feeling happy? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling neutral? Now, that is a very easy solution to build in a mobile app, and it can then have its own legs. There were a few other ideas, but they were pretty complex, so we said we will not work on those right now. We need some initial successes. So Tudor started writing the concept. So it came out as a simple idea in Third Space. What Tudor is now doing is we got an area called the Venture Launchpad, where that idea gets fleshed out a bit more, which is what we are doing. But once it gets fleshed out, now the 3 buttons idea is a pretty simple idea. We'll probably just knock it out over a weekend kind of thing. It's not complex. At least the MVP will not be complex. But if it was a complex idea, that too will go through an 8-week cycle. So what we are trying to do is really come up with a repeatable process, and the Lean Launchpad process, if you're familiar with it, looks at lean methods, agile methodologies, business modeling, and most important, discovery, where you talk to customers, potential customers, understand what their pain points are. So that will go through that formal incubation process. At the end of it, it will be venture funding ready, essentially. So that.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, maybe if I touch on something else, which is on the features of Third Space Premium as well, and this is just going back to Circle's app, which uh, some of you are pretty well aware of. We were talking about 4 circles that everyone belongs to. So that's something we want to do. At the moment, we're focusing on the passion circle so that people are connected on passion. But the other area is really on other 3 dimensions of our existence. One is going back to work life, our industry, the industry that we belong to. If we can create connections, 150 connections in the same industry, that can be powerful. The other dimension, third dimension, is on expertise. So we may belong to the same industry and the same expertise, that's powerful. But sometimes it's stepping out of the industry and connecting with others who share the same expertise, but in a very different industry, can be quite powerful as well. That's the third type of circle that we want to build. And the last one is location. While all these virtual sessions and all these things are good, there is fun in having that coffee or a beer or whatever drinks one enjoys to meet up in person, act locally. So that's the location circle concept that we want to build. So those are the kinds of things we want to build in Third Space Premium. If that kind of has legs, then that should start creating value back. But then for a moment, if we visualize the power of having connections, 600 of them for each person, which overlap on one of these 4 dimensions, that can be a very, very powerful energy to harness for our own goods. And we can really connect with people and make great things happen. Go on, Jay.
Dash, these community ideas are fantastic, right? And I absolutely get the value of them when you're a regular, contributing, serious member that has the time to pop in all the time and to be active and to see things as they pop up, and you draw in your own mind a bigger picture of what's going on. But for the busier person that can't pop in that much, is the structure going to be laid out in such a way that there's a visual invitation to what's going on, so that if you haven't been there for 3 weeks, you haven't missed 3 weeks of stuff and you have to go trawl backwards, but you can see visually stats of, you know, what's going on, where the busy places, who's talking, who wants what. Are you going to be able to cater for a guy like me, who's an occasional pop-in, serious guy, but I haven't got the time to go trawl 3 weeks back and read the stuff I've missed? How are we going to cope for that?
Yeah.
Why are you going to?
Out, and that was one of the problems when we were in Discord. People stepped out, came back in. I had to run one-to-one catch-up sessions with them just to bring them up to speed. So it is a problem that needs solving. Then there should be solutions, as in if we are going to build a proper solution, there are solutions like Circle, Circle.so, Mighty Networks. Hopefully they solve these problems. But even a simple newsletter can do the trick sometimes. But yeah, so there are solutions there, as in we can make it clever, as in with good technology, all this is possible. It's like, I'm using you as an example, Jake, because you raised it, but you may be only interested in certain topics. Now, with good AI technology, we can pull out meaningful conversations and bring those to life. All these things that, from a technology perspective, are absolutely possible. But again, it requires time, money, investment. But yeah, no, this is part of customer discovery, I guess, understanding how would members engage in a meaningful way and what would make their life easier.
Yeah, I mean, we're all very busy people, and this thing, for it to have any chance of surviving at all, it will have to cater to easily engage busy people. And from my point of view, to when you're occasionally dipping in and out, you know where to look, you know you've got some kind of visual reference to see, okay, who needs my attention, or where are my services useful, or what's the hot topic, or something. You know, even sending me a newsletter once a month, if it's longer than a page, I'm not even going to read it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just too busy to, you know, read someone else's stuff. Page and a half, 2 pages.
Yes.
So it's just something that our busyness will have to be considered. Otherwise, the busy people won't get engaged.
Yes, yes. And I think I see that in all the communities and all our previous attempts. People come along because they like the idea, but then busyness gets in the way and they get disconnected. In the past, there was a tooling challenge, which thankfully LinkedIn has overcome because everyone's kind of tuned in into LinkedIn. But even with that, there is always that challenge of time. So yes, no, absolutely, we need to solve that.
If I may step in at
Yeah.
Dash and address Jake's query, there's a lot going on, and I understand why it would be hard to keep an overview. But if anything, the funnel that Third Space provides is just to it's doing just that, which is enabling people to sort of focus along the way. Meaning, you know, there's an idea that you feel passionate about, talking about the circles and kind of the, you know, route to getting involved. It's either the passion, it's either the profession or industry, it's either the expertise or the location. And if you pick that thread and you start pulling, and it's definitely individually driven, you'll get attached to it, and that's the funnel, I guess, concept that I visualize about it. There's obviously at a certain point going to be just too much to gauge by one individual. If I understand your question correctly, it might be then probably to maybe have some sort of an overview of where the action is, which is what I found easy to relate to in Discord, because I could see the channels and I could see how many conversations happened, so I knew where the energy was, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you know, it's the 7-second rule, right? If you land on somewhere that you have an interest, if within 7 seconds you know where you want to go, how you're going to get there, you'll stay there, right? And that has to apply to us too, not just because we're members, we can, you know, suffer long passages to read, but, you know, we have to apply the same rules, the engagement rules, to our own community.
Yeah, I think it's solvable, Jake. It should.
Yeah,
be.
no, I agree.
Yeah, but it's something to be very conscious about, because if there's too much, if there's information overload in this world of 240 character tweets, it does lead to disengagement. I fully get that.
Cool.
Scott, we've got a couple of minutes now. This is not the only forum, but hopefully today's session has at least helped bring you up to speed on what Third Space's intentions are and where it is going. In terms of what's happening on ground, it is still in LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not ideal for conversations like this. It is designed to be a social media site. We are trying to structure, I don't know if Merlin's on the call, but he gave some great feedback on how text was starting to overwhelm him. He's an active contributor in these conversations. So we're starting to look at how we can work within the constraints of LinkedIn. And if it helps, I can maybe do a bit of a recording so that you get your heads around how to navigate the topics and how they're being structured. But I think we have some limitations there. But as a general rule, if we keep to the current approach, there's a topic a week. That topic is general theme. So mental health at work would be theme. There are then specific trigger questions that get introduced every so often so that the conversations can focus around those. And then at the end of the week, there is a poll to firstly understand how we did and whether this was helpful. A poll for what the next week's topic needs to be, and then the final bit is the summary of the discussions that then gets published on LinkedIn as essentially what looks like a blog post where it summarizes. So if you've not been able to catch up during the week or not been able to participate in that summary post is obviously very useful. But what would really create energy and make it valuable to is active participation. So I'm hoping today's session has helped understand where all this is coming from. And I hope you're able to participate a bit more actively. I know LinkedIn is not a great tool, but let's make it work. If it has legs, then we can do better, I'm sure. So we're on the 30
Thank you,
minutes that were allocated. If there are no further questions, we conclude here. I'll share the transcript and the recording so everyone's got access to it. And there on the LinkedIn Messenger if you have any questions. Absolutely.
Thank you, Dash. Nice seeing you.
Thanks, Ash.
Bye.
Yeah, nice to meet everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank you.
Cheers. Then. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks, Dash.